This is Adjuster Stories, brought to you by Adjuster TV and Veteran Adjusting School. And now your host, Guy Grand.
All right. So, welcome, Ammon, to Adjuster Stories with Guy Grand.
Well, hi. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, dude. You graduated, September of last year?
Yeah, 2023, September.
Wow, so it's just been over a year that you've been doing this.
I know. It's felt like a long time, but it's at the same time, it's gone by in a flash. So
Right.
yeah.
And so give me a little background. You were 20 years in the Air Force?
Yes, I joined the Air Force when I was 17 years old and did 20 and retired in September of 2020.
So right before you came to here?
Well, no, it was a couple of years before I came to there, but yeah. So I had a couple of years of just retirement.
And then you decided you were too young and you needed to go to work.
Right. For my generation, the dream is go retire at 40 years old, and I was 37. And there's only so much sitting around on your couch, and before you're like, okay, let's go do something.
Yeah, for sure. It's amazing because I was never in the military, but working with you guys, I'm like, holy crap, maybe I should have just done that. And then at least I had a little bit of money coming in when I woke up. I didn't have to go stress out about how I was going to work. But now, as you well know, I'm retired. So, or at least sort of retired, kind of sort of retired.
You're working.
My brain's working. It's funny.
Yeah,
I sit in the hot tub in the mornings and watch the sunrise, and I'm like, oh, well, what else can I do to help the industry? How else are we going to make this thing happen? And as a blessing as it was to have the Voss Train program and have all of you guys in it, it's pretty cool as an old guy to be able to hang out.
I want to, I like when you just said, how can I help the industry? I was working, one of the companies I was working for they had one contract. It was a smaller company, and that contract just lapsed, and they're about to bid on another contract. And I didn't know this information at the time. And I reached out to one of the the manager, and he had been awesome. He had been really training us and just helping us out, which for independent adjusters, getting training from a manager doesn't happen that often, but he would have, biweekly meetings.
Oh, nice.
And I sent him a text. I just felt inspired to send him a text saying, I want to thank you for just the feedback that you've given me. My products have become so much better. And he called me up later that day and he said, thank you for that. And I told him, I said, you really helped out the industry overall, because that's really what it's about.
Right.
They're going to get another contract. There'll eventually be more work through that company. I'm working with multiple firms, but you really do appreciate the people that are pushing it forward and really helping out the industry and making it better.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because when I started, it was all good old boy. So that's all we had.
Yep.
If somebody wasn't helping us, then we weren't figuring it out. But I was really fortunate, like on my first storm, I had a guy that hated training new adjusters, but his wife really liked me. So she invited me over for dinner, and he'd have to train me whether he liked it or not. And then the same thing like you're talking about. As I was growing up in the industry, it was our managers that taught us the most.
You're right.
It wasn't just a file review kind of situation, right? We had a manager that literally called us up and he was like, look, do this way. And then that's how it all progressed. And there's still, I think I probably told you guys in class that everybody wants you to succeed.
You're
right.
right.
You're a new adjuster. They want you to succeed. So if you're not asking questions and you're just sitting there staring at the computer, you're not learning anything. But if you're asking questions, everybody goes, oh, I don't want to ask a dumb question. Well, there isn't. If you're trying to figure it out, whatever that line item is, or that process, or whatever else, somebody's going to be there to tell you at least what they think. Whether it's right or wrong is a whole nother story, right? But
Yeah.
they're going to tell you what they think.
Guy, I asked a ton of questions when we were in class. I know you used to have
Right?
fun. Just
Right?
just how much questions that the people that were in our class were entertained. But I still take that. That's what makes this job interesting is there's always something to learn. There's every day. There's just something that you're like, oh, I've never noticed that. As you're working on a product, as you're out there, there's different types of roofs. There's different architecture. There's like, why did they do that? Why, there's just so much to learn. I liked how you always had an answer. I know sometimes it was hard to be so disruptive in your class, with questions, but it's good to have people around you that are there to answer those questions.
Yeah, and for us and you guys in particular, right? But for everybody that came through the school, we had you for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So, if I got tired of your questions, I just told you to shut up, and you would shut up for 5 minutes or so, maybe, and then you'd ask another question. But we were able to keep control over that environment to get the muscle memory in your head enough to get you out into the field.
Well, and Guy, I wanted to know everything right then, which the thing is, it's just like trust the process. I was your 42nd class, so you had trained 41 classes before me, 400 people, more or less,
Right.
Before me. And so I'm asking probably similar questions that other people ask. And the thing is, though, it's until you actually get out in the field and learn it firsthand. Well, you provided the foundation, which was perfect, and you provided all the answers too. Those answers didn't really sit in until you actually are like on the ground.
You're standing there looking at it, right?
Yeah, or until you get the call back, like where the reviewer is saying, "What is this?" I was telling you one time. I'm going to share a story real quick.
Uh-huh.
So early on, I had this claim. Well, first off, right when I got out of class, I had there was a hailstorm that happened, and I called you up and I said, "Oh, I'm so happy! They're sending me 10 claims," and you just kind of chuckled, and because you knew I was about to be hit hard, right?
Uh-huh.
And I did, and I hit those claims, and it took me a little bit longer to get those reports in. And then it was kind of dry. It was a little slow, right? But these were so easy to look at. All this hail was so easy because, you could not miss. It was at least an inch and a half, 2 inch. It was huge, right? And so fast forward a couple months, I hadn't done that many claims at this point because it had dried up, which happens. And I have this person in the area that had reached out and said, "Hey, can I shadow you?" And I'm like, new, I've done 20 claims at this point. And I'm like, super. And I'm like, "Oh, come on, prior military guy." And so we're out, they send me this reinspection. And I look at this person's photo report because you showed us exactly like, okay, this is how you do a photo report. This is what you do. And I'm like, man, they didn't really see what they were seeing, because their photo report wasn't that good. So I was expecting they wrote no hail at all. And I was expecting to go out there and see hail. The homeowner had called back in. The roofer was like, "Oh yeah, get them back out here." And so I'm bringing this guy that's like brand new with me. And it's this, we're going on the steep roof and we're just up there, looking at these things. And there was something wrong with the roof. The roof was zippering, there was like this little staircase type of thing. If you're looking from the ground, there's a zippering effect. And so you would see the shingles kind of pop off. But first off, that's not hail and that's not even wind. Well, wind can exasperate that. That's how it was manufactured.
Yep.
Or not manufactured, that was how it was installed. It was installed properly. And then with a combination of the heat and the wind, but that's not covered. So, but I'm like looking over there and I'm like, oh, here's, and I'm seeing stuff and I'm marking it up. And I send these pictures back to my and I'm like, this is hail. Well, turns out it was nail pops. For real. I was, but I send this up and my desk adjuster or my file reviewer, all of a sudden there was a $0 claim to a $40,000 claim because this is a huge roof, and and rightfully so. They called me up, were like, "Do you even know what hail is?" and I was just so excited. I had seen so much what really hail was, and I thought this was hail. I was with someone else. I'm like, "Oh yeah, this is how you do this process. This is what this looks like." And so I send that file over to you, and you look at it. You're like, "No,
No.
that's not hail." And so, but guys, the thing is, those are the lessons that you learn. Actually, right after that, I mean, it was still pretty slow. This is January, and you said you should go take the Hague course. They have such a great resource for hail, for wind. So you sent me over to Hague, and so I purchased the course, just the hail one specifically, but and maybe I'll get certified with roofs at this point, now that I've done 150 roofs. But at that point, I did the hail, and oh my gosh, one of the things that the biggest takeaway was fill it. If it feels bruised, then more than likely it's hail. If you
Right.
look at all the collateral, it's hail. And I think you probably would have told us that and everything, but it's not till you have that case.
Yeah, it's funny. You guys call me all the time, and you're like, "I heard your voice when I was on that roof. I was looking at this, and I heard you talking to me." I'm like, "Yeah, I do that sometimes." But yeah, Ammon, everybody, until we get out there and we do it, and we turn something in, and they call us up, and they're like, "Really? Are you a dumbass or what?" Until
You got to take it. You got to
totally, and they're not, at least in my case, right? I never took being a dumbass as I didn't know. I took being a dumbass as, oh, I just did something, and don't do that again, and pay attention to it. And so, as a new guy out there, that's gonna happen. Which gets back to the conversations, right? Talking to your managers. Send it up when they kick it back at you. Just chuckle with them on the phone. Go, yeah, well, I kind of look like hail, but that won't happen again. That nail pop isn't going to happen. I can promise you.
So I work for a couple of firms, and one of the firms is it's smaller. The smaller firms are kind of slow this time of year because they don't have like a big contract. And so
Right.
I sent a message to one of the dispatch guy, and I said, "I miss you harassing me." I said, "I'm pretty busy over here, but I miss going back and forth with you." And so he sent me a claim later that day. But it's just it's fine.
Right.
The thing is, if you cannot take it, then you shouldn't be in this industry.
True. True that. And there's a lot of ego in this industry on all sides, but there's a lot of ego, and nobody wants to get butt hurt. Nobody wants somebody to, I'm going to stop there. That was one of the things I loved about you in class, man. You never got butt hurt. No matter what I said to you, you just smiled and you took it, and you come back later and ask why and stuff like that. And it just so many people think that their file reviewer is their adversary, or when they get that call from the manager, the first thought is, "Oh my God, I did something wrong," or all of that stuff that happens when really it's just trying to make us better at the industry, right?
No, you're right. You're right.
To make us a better adjuster. And pretty soon when they quit calling you and you quit talking to them every freaking day or every third day or every week, or when that starts subsiding, then you're starting to figure it out. And that's the big part of this whole business is people go out there and they think that they know, or they think they don't know and they don't have the confidence, and they think everybody's going to get on, everything that they do is a wrong. I got a kickback. I must have done something wrong. Oh my God. How many kickbacks you got?
and the thing is, you're gonna get some. I was on a roof yesterday, so I had a supplement that was sent to me, and some of these roofers ask for everything, right? And I was on a roof yesterday, and it just so happened that the guy that sent the supplement was on this roof also, which I don't typically see a lot of the same roofers just because I work a big area. And I'm talking to him about this supplement. I said, this carrier does not, pay for certain things. But I told him, I said, I liked how you justified it, though. I've never seen you had really creative justification. You had exactament and everything. I said, I don't know. I went back to the desk adjuster and asked if he's going to approve it. I'm still waiting to hear. And he said, oh, well, let me tell you, you gave me extra shingles already. And I don't know why he told me that. And he said the Eagle View, image or whatever was, gave more shingles. Well, I had done the measurement on this, and it wasn't a whole lot more. And I went back to my file, and I went back to because I use Google Earth to capture that. And I went back, and it was a correct thing, but that image that I pulled from happened to be distorted. And so I pulled another image, and I got a lot closer to the accurate shingle. So these roofers, the point in this is sometimes we're going to make a mistake, and it's really out of our control. We did what we were supposed to do, and one of the things you measure on site also, just to get one of the measurements just to make sure it's correct. However, sometimes it's, these roofers get greedy, I mean, and it's at the end of the day, it's a business, they're trying to make money just like everybody else, but you just got to let it roll off and let it be, and then fight the fights that need to be fought also.
Sure.
If the carrier doesn't approve those things and that's just their policy, then that's probably standard. It's just like when your kids come to you and they ask, they're going to see, well, are you going to budge here? And typically, if you're a good parent, you're going to say no. Like you're going to toe the line, and you're going to say no. This is, are you questioning my authority as a parent? No. Like, should I question the authority as that carrier? Unless it really needs to be, yes, but if they have guidelines, typically follow the guidelines.
Exactly. And the roofers, so greed, we won't even get into that because we can go to the world of greed, right? But like you said, they're just trying to make a buck.
That's it.
And it's a numbers game. If I can supplement 10 claims, I might get some money on 2 of them.
Yes, you're right.
You're right. Right.
That's it. Exactly.
That's the way they're looking at it too. They're not looking at it as, with what we pay, they could do that roof.
Of course. There's a big markup in it. Yeah, absolutely. There's a markup in there.
Yeah. Here's a good story. So remember the Willenberg house?
Yes.
Right? So I just put a new roof on that house.
Okay.
Well, the roofers around here were anywhere from 18 to 20 grand.
Okay.
So I just sketched the roof, made it all materials only, called up ABC Roofing, said, I want 90 bundles of 30-year roof. I want this starter row. I want this many linear feet of drip edge. So I put together the package. And then I went and I found a crew that has their own little LLC, but they work for the roofers.
Okay.
There's this guy named Regilio. And I said, Regilio, I wanted to get him before they all got deported. So I said, Regilio, no, sorry, don't go there. But I said, Regilio, how much do you charge a square? And he was like, 130 a square. I'm like, 30 square roof, 130 a square, buy the materials for $6 grand. I put the roof on for 13. Right? And so here's the point of all of that, though. Because I understood what materials and labor were.
Yes.
Right. I bought the starter row. I had to buy the ridge cap. There was things that in guidelines a lot of these carriers don't allow us to do.
Yes.
But they allow us to put 10% waste.
Exactly. Yes.
And I can attest to this because I just did it.
Yes.
That I literally had about 4.5% to 5% waste on that roof. And you know the roof because you're on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right? Of actual shingles.
Yes.
I had plenty of money for the starter row. I had plenty of money for the ridge cap. So if they allow us to do 10% or 15 on a hip, there's enough money in there for you to go buy the frickin' starter row. You're correct. It's not on my estimate. So let me reduce your waste to 5% and I'll give you the starter row. That work?
Well, wish I worked for a firm that does that. They're like, okay, yeah, so we're going to give you 8% and we're going to give you starter.
Yeah.
It's,
the numbers are the numbers. They're still making their 30%.
But what's interesting though is if you do it that way, I never saw supplements. So if they're like, okay, we'll do 8% and we'll do the starter, we'll do the ridge cap, there weren't supplements for it because you already, and they weren't saying, hey, there's more waste, because like you said, the waste truly isn't typically more than 5% or even, 7 or 8 if you got to hit.
If it's a super cut up roof. Where you live, it might be 7 or 8, or it might even be 10.
Well, some of these roofs, are super cut up, but some of them, I don't know.
Like the Willenberg roof. Simple gable, little gable extension on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It was fun doing it with these guys too, because I know the business. So I was up there with the crew while they were doing it. And so it was pretty cool.
Did you have to file your own permit also for the roof, like with the city before you did that, or what did you like? Oh, I'm sorry.
Now it just changed color over the weekend. Something happened. It went from that grayish color to a brown over the weekend. But it was so funny because when they got done with the drip edge, there was literally like 5 foot of drip edge left over.
Okay.
I'm like, this is perfect. And when they got done, there were 2 bundles left.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So I was like, yeah. And back to your point though, these roofers know they're getting enough money. They're just trying to get a little more. And again, not to get back to the ego thing, right? So it's not about an ego game. It's just a guy trying to make some money. And you can laugh with them and have a great time with them and be like, nah, dude, I gave you 10% of waste. Come on. I know what you're making.
I had another roofer. I sent you this in a message. This was a file I did not do, and sometimes when you do other people's files, you never know how they scoped it, and so sometimes they're definitely not the same level. I feel like a lot of them, as you trained us. And so somehow this guy gave this roof a pitch that was, gave him an extra 7 to 12 or whatever. Said it was a 7 pitch, and it really was a 412 pitch. I don't even know where he got the picture or why that happened. And so I had this roofer arguing about shingles, and I literally we're looking at the rest of the house. He said we weren't going to go on the roof because we knew we were going to replace it. But I pull out my pitch gauge and I look up there and I put it right on the angle, and I said, oh, well, this is a 412 pitch roof. And so I said, you got a steep charge on this. I don't think that covers the extra shingles that you're saying that you're missing because we're not paying your ridge cap. I said, because he was trying to tell me, oh, if you just looked at my bill, I'll show you how many shingles we bought. I said, you're fine. and he went, once I pulled that out and he knew, like I knew what I was talking about, that I really was prepared, he backed down. That's how you gotta approach it. Is there is some negotiation, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But you come there confident, the file, you know what you're looking at, and you just you go with them professionally, and typically you can come to an agreement, and then that'll keep it from the desk adjuster. The desk adjuster just wants to push it forward and close it.
They're done. Close the freaking claim.
Yes.
Somebody's already been there. You're the second guy out there. Please get this thing closed for me.
Just push it through, but don't accept everything, because I've had other people call me, the managers. You field adjusters, you just approve every supplement that comes your way. So you can't do that. You got to really know your stuff and say no when you can say no.
Well, have you done a lot of reinspections at this point?
I'm getting more. I mean, it just all depends on. They just say, "Hey, we got this," and I say yes. So I'm like, yes,
Yes.
yes.
I'd love to do that for you for $90. It's fine. Take
Yes.
that other guy 350.
Well, some of these are, on the companies that don't pay that well up front, like maybe it's the mortgage place insurances, they don't pay that much for adjusting. They typically pay time and expense, though, for the reinspections. So those are kind of, those are actually kind of lucrative. But for the most part, you just, I'm getting a lot. I get a mix of them. I would say probably 10% are re-inspections from others, or maybe 5 to 10%, a couple a month. I got one this afternoon.
So when you look at those re-inspections and you look at that original adjuster's photos, how's that look?
So it depends. If it happened right during a storm, right after a storm, those photos are the worst. Typically, right. They're pulling whoever off that storm, over there, and who knows how long they've been trained for what they're doing. But really, I guess my first storm, some of my photos looked the same way. I mean, they looked a little better, but they still weren't as good. But yeah, some of these files, just what their measurements, just across the board, how they're drawing the roofs, they're just off. It's like, where did you learn? Or did you learn?
Did you learn?
Did you learn?
No, he was an adjuster, had his friend Ammon, who did 10 claims, and he went out with him, and now he's an adjuster.
No, that guy ended up not actually. I sent him, actually tried to send him to boss. You were going to be closing, but I think he sent his GI Bill over to his daughter. His daughter used it, and then he decided he didn't want to do adjusting. After all, he got some other lucrative type of deal.
Yeah.
But, well, maybe he saw that it wasn't that regular. I mean, at that point, when you first start out in your career, it can be slow. I mean, it was, it's part-time. It's part-time at first. Now it's full-time.
Right.
I'm rocking and rolling all the time. I mean, like here's just some numbers, right? People like numbers.
Yeah.
So when I first got, now when I went to class, you said, "Oh, you're from Texas. There's a lot of adjusters in Texas, right?" So you warned me, and you also told me, you said, you're going to be, do dailies. And so, okay, so let me continue on with this. So early on, I had 20 claims by January. By May, I had another 15, and now I've done another 165 claims from May through now. So I'm full time from May, and especially the last couple of months. However, I mean that takes you. It just doesn't start out that way. First you got to get busy, and now it's the slower season for some people, but it's busy for me because. Some people ask when's hail season. Well, hail season was this last summer, but it's hail season for me now because all the roofs that people didn't put a claim in, they're sending them all to me now because I'm doing dailies.
Yep, it's called neighboritis. Right?
Yes.
So if you're sitting in your house and you haven't filed a claim and you hear bum, 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 all around the neighborhood, you're like, maybe I should file a claim.
Exactly. Well, and that one of the carriers asked that. They say when you go out on that claim, look around, are there new roofs being installed? So they have me take pictures of that, and so I look and I say, okay, here's the new roofs. It really helps around here because there's some of those black roofs, and that's a trend. I mean, the black shingle is a trend, so you can kind of tell that was installed recently,
Right.
And so, but you're right. They or sometimes they just don't have the money right then, and so they're saving up, to pay for the roof, for months later. 2%
deductible on wind, so.
And it's high. I mean, you come to Texas and there's a lot of wind, a lot of hail, But what was interesting, though, I had this thought at the very end of class, because you kept saying, go do daily, right? And I was convinced I wanted to do cat. I just was like, okay, no, I really want to do cat. I had even brought a ladder I brought a ladder, this cheap ladder out there to class before I'd even come.
Right.
I got this
I'm
Chinese
going
one
to do
from,
CAD on my way home.
this Chinese Amazon telescopic ladder. I brought it there. And then you have this block where you're showing us these are the real ladders that you want, that you really want to get one of these type of ladders. And so one of those ladders, you said, okay, telesteps. It has a great, it's aluminum. It's very
Right.
heavy duty. And so I did pick up the telesteps because I really liked the collapsible and just how heavy duty. And a lot of roofers always tell me, oh my gosh, I love your ladder, but I got rid of that Chinese one right when I got home and I got the good stuff. I was like, okay, no, I gotta get the ladders that actually make sense, because if you're going out there, you want to look professional, you want to look the part, like what you're doing, you got the right equipment, you got your process down, which is what you guys did.
Just so many of you guys would come to school with all of your tools. I'm ready. I'm going to run claims on my way home.
That's what I did.
I know. I'm like, no, you got to go home and kiss the babies first. Worry about that later.
Okay, so you were given this advice. You said, okay, go. You want to do dailies. Like that's ultimately, if you can get on with that, and you don't have to leave for storms. Well, it is good to leave for storms when they need you. Don't get me wrong. If you could do dailies, it's good. And I had the thought. I said, if there's someone doing dailies and they leave to go to a storm, then I want to be the person that takes up their daily work.
Sure.
So, okay. So this happened to me and another person recently, right? It has slowed down for me in September. I was going to deploy maybe it was October. I was going to deploy first to Louisiana, and then nothing happened with that hurricane. And then I was going to deploy to Florida, but I had a trip coming up in the middle of it, and so I really could not deploy. It was planned. I couldn't change this trip. And so I get a call while I'm on the trip, right? And they're like, "Hey, can we send you some claims?" I said, "I'm gone for the next couple of days. Can I do them when I get back?" And they said, "Yeah, absolutely." And so I just started with this company. There was a bigger firm, right? And so I'd done one claim for them previous to this, like the week before. And I thought I was going to come back and still try to deploy, but they sent me 20 claims. And I'm going to tell you this, right when I got, I brought my work laptop on that trip. I scheduled all of that stuff. And right when I got back Friday night. I'm not even lying about this. I did 8 on the Saturday, or I think I did 8 to 10 on that Saturday, and then on the Monday I did the rest of them, and then I closed them all by that Tuesday. I swear. And the thing is, I used to be really slow, but you take as much time as you allow as you give yourself to get it done. And so some of those claims though were not as hard of claims. That's why I was able to do so many of them. It was, here's a small water loss. Here's a water loss in the ceiling, like a small leak here. Like here's, a theft, like something minor, just so some of those, something were easy and were easy to close. I mean, so to close, I can't close 10 a day, if it was all hail, and they're in depth. But I swear I really hit it hard. And why I think that happened though is they were calling me up because everybody left to go to Florida, and I get it. It was slow. Well, I thought it was great, and I've been busy with that firm since then. I feel like I'm the guy. Maybe I am the guy. I don't know, but they're texting me all the time, and I'm like, yes. Even if they send me to San Antonio, sometimes I'm like, okay, if you do it, that's like 2 hours away. I said, okay, send me some more. They sent me to Houston last week for just one, but it was a huge fire loss. I'll do it. I'll work it into my schedule. I'll do it. That's 3 hours from where I'm at. I'll do it. Well, because I want to be the guy. I want to be busy. But I want to tell you this though. So similar story. So another buddy, this person. I'm not going to use names. Okay. So the guy. So he's running claims in this area, right? And he gets not a reinspection. He gets the claim that another boss guy had started working on, but he could not work this. This other boss guy just couldn't coordinate with the homeowner in an appropriate time, and so he schedules the claim, and then he talks to the boss guy, and this is early on when we just barely started. And this guy says that he's just getting the info on the company they're working for, and this other boss guy has been doing it for a couple of years. He says, "Yeah, I'm making like 200K a year, just doing dailies, but the area is like really prime. And so fast forward 9 months, right? This guy that's making 200K decides to go to Florida. And my buddy doesn't know this at the time. He hasn't been working that, it's slowed down. He's getting 1 to 2, and is like, man, do I really want to do adjusting? Am I going to renew my license? Well, he renews his license, go forward 2 more months after he renews his license. And they call him up and they say, look, we need you to run a lot for us. Everybody's left. They've all left the area. We'll increase our fee schedule for you, And so he said, absolutely. He said, yes, I'm getting some other offers, from some other, please increase the fee schedule. And so, okay, he didn't know why that happened exactly. He didn't know this guy had gone to Florida. So go forward a month, right? And he gets, he's working some more claims because they're all coming in. Now he's the guy, right?
Right.
So they're all coming in. And he calls one of the roofers up and says, "Hey, I heard you're the roofer. This is a 3-story house. You got a 30-foot ladder. Can you bring it out there?" The roofer that's already coming. He's like, "Yeah, I'll have my 30-foot ladder." Well, the roofer didn't realize the guys have similar names. The roofer didn't realize who he was talking to. Well, he calls the other guy up and is like, "Hey, you going to be on the claim tomorrow?" The other guy didn't know. He didn't know that
that he wasn't getting the claims anymore.
He just thought it dried up, right? So they talk to each other. And when my buddy realizes that this guy hasn't been getting much work, he's just like, he just kind of backs off and was like, doesn't tell him he's been getting a lot of work. He just kind of backs off the conversation and says, "Oh, how was Florida?" And so then we're talking, and I said, "You know why that happened, right? It's because he left the Florida. Yeah. It's because he left them high and dry. He was their guy." And these contracts, how it works is these firms, they really started out like me and you. They were independents. They go start their IA firm because they're like, I like to work. I can get more people that work like me, and let's go get this contract. And so when someone leaves them high and dry, then they're going to risk losing, they're signing big contracts that they're going to do so many claims a year. The industry. Yep. They're going to do so many claims a year.
Yep.
And so, I mean, first off, why would you give up 200K a year, to go run, for some Florida for a month? Like, is the sun that enticing down there? Come on now. So that guy's probably kicking himself, but who knows? He's experienced, he went to Voss, he'll probably do just fine. But my buddy's now getting the work. I'm getting the work where I'm at. And that's what it comes down to is you just gotta be, you gotta be, yes. Can I do it? Yes.
And for those that are listening out there, if an IA firm gets a contract with a major carrier, they're probably getting that contract in multiple states.
Yes.
And they're agreeing with that carrier that, hey, if you have, a water heater that blows up, we'll make sure it gets taken care of.
Yes.
And that's how they're getting those multi-million-dollar contracts.
Yes.
And so if the guy just bails on you and runs to Florida and nobody's there to take care of that hot water heater, the carrier then says, I'm looking for a new company that's going to take care of that for me.
Exactly.
And like I told you guys in class, if you're running day claims when a big storm hits, you're going to be just as busy as they are, and you're going to be sleeping in your own bed.
That's exactly, and that's what I like. I mean, the truth is, I was doing an inspection yesterday And it was for another adjuster. Occasionally we get to adjust, we get to inspect other adjusters' houses.
Right.
And this guy's a flood adjuster. And I really thought I wanted to do flood. I'm newer. You got to usually have 3 years of experience, prior military vet as well. But he was gone 5 months this year so far, and I like seeing my wife. Like I like seeing my kids, I'll be busy. I'll work all hours of the day and everything, but I like popping my head out. I like, being able to pick them up, drop them off at school if I need to do that, take them to an appointment, rearrange my schedule.
Yeah.
But there's after being on the go for so long in the military and transitioning every couple of years, moving on, it's nice to finally set some roots and say, no, actually, I can enjoy and I can work here and I can build my own business here and I can do a good job here and I don't have to go run to the next claim or I don't have go run to the next out of state or go.
It's just like you said, you're slow at the beginning, especially if you're new, right?
Yeah,
you're slow at the beginning because those other guys that have been around for 4 or 5 years are going to take the claims.
Yep, absolutely.
But if you're just that guy that always says yes, when that big storm hits and that guy bails, and then you turn in a good work product, as good or better.
Yes.
When they come back, they're like, yep, it's just slow.
Exactly.
And their aiming is over there like, I'm busy every day.
I'm busy. Exactly. Exactly.
So you just said something else too I want to comment on. And I did this with you guys so much, especially, with the military, right? So you did 20 years.
Yes.
You were deployed away from your family.
Yes.
Most of that time, a lot of that time, right?
There's a lot of time,
for 11 months, 12 months, 13 months, 2 tours, back to back, 2 years, right? You got home just enough to breed again, and you came home to a new baby. And sorry. But I know you guys, right? But so I always used to say to all of you guys, look, you've been away enough. So stay home, raise your kids. Just like you said, Ammon, take them, change your schedule, take them to the ball game, take them to whatever they got to do, the doctor's appointment and all the rest of that stuff, because you were away in the beginning. It's the guys that did 20 that were downrange 2 or 3 tours. They came back and said, my wife loves it. No, my wife's cool. My wife's cool. My kids are like 7 and 9. And then I have a son that's 13. My wife's cool. And they start running cat and they wonder why they're getting divorced. Or they wonder why the wife is yelling and screaming at them now.
They were done. They thought you retired. Why are you doing it again?
Exactly. When you were in the military, you had to go.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to this.
And the thing is, I'm divorced and I'm remarried now, but that's not my experience with my current wife, but it was the previous, right. And so you learn that, but you also have to kind of settle in and realize who you are, because I'm gonna tell you, like I really saw that I liked leaving because when things got hard emotionally or other things got hard at home, I could just leave and not have any responsibility from home when I was deployed. Right. And nothing against that, but that was how I coped as a kid. If there was trouble at home, I just would go to my friend's house, go somewhere else. And so at some point though, I've been fortunate enough. I have a great wife, I have a great family, great support system now. But I had to grow up and really say what's here around me. I had to really appreciate the people that were around me, and also just have gratitude. Every day that I went to class, I always thanked you. Always said, thank you. As much crap as you'd give me later on for asking a ton of questions, I genuinely was just grateful that you took the time to run this school, that you took the time to mentor. And you gotta know, like I retired, at 20 years, and I was done. Like I really had to not work for a couple of years because I just was done. I was done emotionally. I was done. I didn't know who I was. I was just really, and I had a successful career. It's not like I didn't do well in the military. I mean, I really did, but I just was done. And so when I got the opportunity to transition to a new career, something totally different than what I had done, I mean, I was hospital administration, so way different. Um, I needed someone like you to be a mentor. I needed someone to say, yeah, you can, someone like my file managers, my dispatch people that say, that talk to me occasionally and say, hey, you're doing well here, or look at this, this is something you could do better. I needed that,
Uh,
because and the thing is, when you're doing something for so long and then you transition to something new, you forget the process of learning something new. That's hard.
right.
So you forget how hard that potentially was, but how rewarding it is once you stick with it. People come, oh, they see the money signs, they say, oh, I'm going to go be an adjuster, and they wash out right away.
Sure.
Because is that really what they wanted, or do they just want the money?
Sure. How many guys and gals went down to Florida and North and South Carolina this year thinking they were going to get rich because they just got their license in June or whatever it was. And that's the only thing on their mind. And then they get out there and they get 20 claims, but they can't close any. So they get 2 closed, and then they get kicked off the storm because they're not closing claims and they're going home. I mean, that's one of the problems I think with our industry is we get new people in there that have these giant dreams, or they're drinking and they have these giant dreams.
Yeah.
And then they get out there and they see what the reality and the hard work it is, and the stress that it is, and the people are stressed that you're dealing with, and your managers are stressed, and everybody's all stressed out. And then they get done and they're like, yeah, well, I'm not doing that anymore. And so now we got a whole new batch of people next year that come in to get a license, and they think that license makes them adjusters.
Yes,
You are
you're right.
not an adjuster with a license.
Yes.
You are nobody. You're just a guy with a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And if you don't stick to it, if you don't get trained, if you don't ask questions, if you don't put the time and energy into it. I mean, if you think about getting $100,000 a year job.
Yes.
So you look on LinkedIn and it says, you can go to work as a project manager and it pays $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
You got to have some experience before you're going to get that job.
You're right.
So you're not going to go make $100,000 a year because you got a license as an adjuster. You're going to be like Ammon, and you're going to do 20 claims a year, and it's going to be slow. And
yes,
I was just talking to one of our guys that just graduated the last class, is from Hawaii.
Okay.
And he was still in the military. He wasn't even on terminal leave yet.
Oh, wow.
He bailed, came to class. I'm like, you should not have come to class. He was like, but I had to come to class because it's your last class. And he just got out, I think, middle of November or something like that. Got his last paycheck. And he wasn't 20, so he didn't do 20. So I think he was 14 or something like that. And he's freaking out now because he's not getting enough claims. I'm like, you're not going to go turn $100,000 a year just because you just got a license.
It takes time. You got to settle into the process. You got to understand who you are. You have to, and it really, there is a principle that as maybe this the Pareto principle. I think where it's like how much time you give something, it'll take up that amount of time. And so this is an example, right? It's the same thing with like your budget. If you're not budgeting and you're going to spend all the money that comes in, but time's the same way. And so I had this fire loss that was like pretty large the one out in Houston. I did that on Friday, and I had really done the rest of my claims. So I had over the weekend to do that, to kind of close it. And since it was a larger loss, normally you close it in a day, but when it's so in depth and you're like, and it's not a total loss. That's the hard part, when it's not a total loss, but there's so much stuff that you're like, okay, what about this? What about that? It took a lot longer than it needed to take. It probably should have took I mean, I probably should have had it closed within the day. But some of that, though, you don't, I gave myself a lot more time for it, which is okay at the end of the day, but it took as much time as I gave it, once I had to do other claims and they were coming up and I was like, okay, I already got inspection scheduled and I had to go do that. It's like, I just got to get through this, send it up, and whatever I'm struggling with here, let it be and let it come back to you if I need to come back. As long as my photos justify it, as long as it can flow through, it'll be fine. And there'll be things I'll do different next time, which even, I've done 190 claims now in the last 15 months. But even with that, it's like, I'm for a fire loss, and I've done fire losses. Everything's different,
Yeah.
This one happened. The fire went in the attic. It didn't really go through the house. It started on the outside of the house, in between, like in a breezeway, and so it went through two different attics, the garage attic and the other attic, and so that creates damage on the roof. It creates damage,
Yeah.
all through, like all throughout all in the attic. So all these things. The soffit, like these things that you don't necessarily think about, that are venting out the air as it is.
Sure.
And so, but then you realize, oh, well, now I know when I have this next time, what am I going to take pictures of? What am I actually going to? So you just realize that, but you don't know that until, that's why I say yes to everything, because that's how you gain experience. You go say yes, you live it,
and you're like, wow, messed that one up, but I won't do that again. No, exactly.
But in the same process, you also say, okay, well, I really do need to give myself just a certain amount of time. Otherwise, I'm going to spend the whole weekend, stressing over this claim.
I was talking to somebody yesterday, and the new adjusters that went out on the hurricanes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's say they got their 20 or 25 claims and they got through them. Okay, so you paid for the storm.
Yeah.
You were able to buy some tools or whatever else. And now you're going to come home and you're going to kick back and you're going to wait for the next storm. If you are not training in between, if you don't keep your Xactimate up and running and sketching your own house just because you're not working today, and going to Hague, like you said, or looking for the other opportunities that are out there, other learning, quote unquote, opportunities that are out there. Some are going to be great, some are going to be bad. Maybe you go to an IA firm's, because this is going to be coming up in January, February, one of their conferences in Dallas.
Yeah.
And you just go and you rub elbows and you talk to people about things that you experienced. Wow, I had this fire loss and went up through the breezeway. And you're talking to a guy that was like, yeah, I had that too. And this is what I did.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, great. Or you say, this is what I did. And they go, oh my God, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
Makes you feel even better, right?
It's interesting you bring that up. I went to two conferences the beginning of last year, and I did the Hague course. So I was networking because I wasn't getting much claims. I said, okay, I went to one of the firms and I went to NACA. I had to split some of my time and I didn't get to go all of NACA, but you just go network and you go do that. But in the process, I was wanting to bring this up. In the process, you meet the adjusters, some of the adjusters that are getting a lot of work, and some adjusters that they're at those conferences because they're not getting a lot of work.
Right.
You kind of have both, right? And so I found that there's a couple of different types of adjusters that I saw out there. There's one, the adjuster team. You got the husband, the wife, you got maybe the person that's hired someone else, and they are going to be busy because, well, A, they're trying to pay for two people, but B, they have so much more efficiency. So if one person's struggling, the other person's like, here, you got to keep going, and setting that file up. So the next type of adjuster I found was like the workaholic. They're the ones that are just going to work all the time. And I find myself in that category right now. The next one, though, is the underemployed.
Right.
They always have the excuse. They always have the excuse for why they can't get a hold of the insured, why that claim's not closed yet. why they're not really available for that deployment. They're the one that wants to be an adjuster, but they're still working at their other job. They can't fully, you got to fully commit. They're the underemployed,
Yeah.
And then there really is the other adjuster, and this, that is able to manage things, but and work within a certain time frame, certain amount of time. But those typically are the staff adjusters, just because they're getting paid salary and they're not necessarily.
They stop at 5 o'clock anyway.
But what I've found though is I don't have another assistant yet. I don't have another person that's. I just haven't gone that route.
You have to be good. You're getting close to that now that you've done a couple hundred claims. But you need to do that.
I'm going to tell you though, I got just almost as good of an assistant. I use AI. I don't know. Have you talked to I use it a lot, like a lot. And so I use ChatGPT. So if I have questions, I ask you so many questions. I'm going to tell you, I ask ChatGPT probably way more questions ever.
Thank God you quit calling me.
For real. But I'm like, hey, could this be caused by this? Because people have so many stories of why something happened, and so it'll tell me all the ways of something that could cause certain damage. And then, so whenever I'm making my justification, I'm like, I sound more like an expert because I've actually done research. Sometimes ChatGPT can come up with some BS, so you got to verify that stuff. But it gets me a lot further,
Right. But so what you're talking about, Ammon, though, is more training.
You're right.
If you're using ChatGPT, and we'll just stick with that.
Yes.
If you're using ChatGPT to ask those questions to get those answers, you're just getting more knowledge in your head, which is making you more, I don't want to say profitable, but it's making you more desirable.
Efficient. Yeah.
Efficient's the word. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, and more knowledgeable because you're doing the research, and it's not just this, person that's gone through some 2-week course wherever, and now they're an adjuster.
Yeah. And they get done and they make a bunch of money and they go out and they spend all their money because they're not budgeted, like you said. And then they're wondering when the next storm's going to hit. So come March, they're bugging everybody and whining and crying.
Yes.
And on Facebook saying, this business sucks, there's no work. But they're not doing anything to better themselves.
Yeah.
And if you're an adjuster and you want to make 150 grand a year, then you got to work at it, because that's not free money.
Yeah.
You've got to be knowledgeable to do that.
And then use the tools that are out there. The other thing I use it for is I have my GLR format already uploaded to ChatGPT, and then I set it up before I go out there. And so I'm literally updating it, for whoever I'm working for. I'm updating it as I go. And so my report is pretty much written when I leave, but when I'm scoping it then and writing it in the estimate, it's so much cleaner. It looks so good, and it speeds it up. I mean, it really speeds it up tremendously. And the thing with ChatGPT is it looks perfect. Like the grammar is perfect. The formatting looks good. And so you just got to be able to work with it when it's giving you stuff that you don't necessarily like. You got to be able to work with it and say, tell me, no, do this for me, do this, and ask it other questions. But it's really the perfect assistant.
Well, and it's cheap.
It's cheap. Yeah. $20 bucks a month.
Exactly.
I'm going to give you, I had this. Okay. Another story. So I have a lot of stories, but I guess this is what we're on, right?
Adjuster stories with Guy Grant, brother. That's why I told you, Ammon, that's why I told you when I got you on the phone, we're going to be doing this more often with you. Because these are great stories, and they're helping people.
Yeah, I would love. Here's the thing: I would be on your podcast anytime. So thank you.
Go.
But I'm going to tell you this. Okay. So I had this contents only claim, right? And those are kind of the hardest. Those could be the hardest at times. This was a complete fire loss, and this was in a small rural town. And this lady, she was, widow in her late 60s, early 70s. And I'm going through this house, and it didn't burn all the way down, but everything's just charred, right? And I'm looking through all this stuff. And, and it's contents only, so I take a video. I actually went and took a video of of every part of the room, take a whole video. Um, and she needs help. She doesn't have a computer. Like she
Right.
needs help, working on this. Right. And so when I say AI is super smart, so I work with her and I say, look, we're going to look at this video. It's a lot harder to be inside the house. We're going to look at this video and we're going to describe everything we look at into this recorder in ChatGPT, and it's going to record all your items. We're just going to describe it. So we pause it, slow it down. This only didn't take that long, believe it or not. It captured all those items that we could visibly see, and then we asked ChatGPT, what are the average items that people have, and so we compared it to what people have in a household, and so we went over that. I said, okay, what are these items that you have? And she said, okay, I had X, Y, and Z. And then we asked it. So now we had a whole list, like within like 45 minutes. This is a game changer for people that do flood, for people that do fire. Literally 45 minutes. If you just have a video, you can literally just dictate into this, right? And then I said, what's the average cost? And it has the average cost. What's the average cost of all these items? And so then it provides a list with the average cost
of each of the items.
Of each of the items.
Holy
yes.
Fuck.
I swear to God. So think about all the contents. Now, granted, there's programs out there that cost a lot, Xactimate contents, whatever. But but for this person that has a terrible insurance policy as it is, very poor, about a month after that, she sent me a text and she just said, thank you so much. And it really did mean a lot to me that I was able to, we take care of the insurance companies, but we also are there for the insured as well too.
For sure.
And so it took a little bit of extra time to go through that, and it was out of the box thinking. I don't know what made me think of doing that. Maybe because I like AI, I don't know, but it was out of the box thinking to even go that route. But I'm telling you, it was a game changer for this lady. She probably would have got like 5,000 and said she probably got 20 grand or more. I mean, I don't know. Just a lot more, and rightfully so, because her stuff was completely burnt. People think of kind of the bigger items, but they don't think of all the other items, the stuff that you have in your house.
Yeah. Remember when we showed you my partner's cabin that burnt?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
One of the things that when you're doing large loss contents that people don't even think about is how many frames were in the hallway.
Yeah.
If you were a family man, then you probably had 50 frames that are all $10 a piece.
Yeah.
In the hallway. I can't buy your pictures, but I can certainly buy the frames for your pictures.
And that's why the video helped out also, because I could
Sure.
see it. I could still see the stuff.
Sure.
It was like, okay, here's the video. But I'm telling you, yeah, you're right. You don't think about that though. And that's why ask it, what are the average items, and you just keep going and saying, how many pairs of clothes is a typical person? Now you gotta be more specific, because a typical person, could be someone in Europe versus someone in the US. We might have, 50 outfits, but they might only have 10 outfits down in, some other countries.
Exactly.
So,
exactly. We're going to transition this because we're moving on an hour here, bro. But I want to end with the AI component.
yes.
Right? Because so many adjusters are out there and everybody's so worried about what AI is going to do. And is it going to take my claims? It's just like when drones came out.
Yeah.
Right? I can't tell you, when drones first started coming out, everybody that came to class was like, I got to get a drone. I got to be a drone thing because all adjusters, it's going to take over adjusting. Like, no, a drone is not going to take over adjusting. A drone's not going to fly inside somebody's house and take a video just like you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right? So and now the AI, it's just going to be an app on a phone. An insured is not going to want to hear, press 1 if you think this is that, press 2 we're paying for insurance. Somebody is going to stand in front of me when I have a loss.
You're right.
If my freaking house burns, there's going to be a human that's going to be standing there, not some freaking chat box.
And that's what we bring. You're right.
Correct. And so there's so much benefit to AI, and you just explained it perfectly, brother. That is so freaking great, of what we can do to better our work product
Yes.
by using the technology that's there.
Yes.
You know, when drones first came out, so if I have a church, that church has a 1612 pitch,
Yes.
and it's freaking 100 freaking feet in the air. So
Use a drone.
for that, you can use a drone. The steeple, who the frick is going to climb? I mean, I can't tell you how many churches I did before drones, and I just looked up there and kind of zoomed in and go, yeah, I found hail down here, so there must be hail up there. That's going to be this many squares. I had no freaking idea. That was a supplement because they needed a crane, and I didn't know how much a crane cost, right?
Yes.
But now there's a drone, so I can get up there and I can document that a little bit better. And
Yes.
so these technologies that are out there, and this is where we're going to end with this one, bro.
Okay.
These technologies that are out there aren't the end of our business. They're just tools for us to use to make our business better and our personal work product better. So
Yes.
the IA firms and the people we work with want to use us more than the guy that ran away to the storm.
You're right.
Or more than the guy that doesn't want to get the education.
You're
Or
right.
more than the guy that has the ego that thinks he's better than everybody else and he knows because he was a contractor.
Yes.
So it's looking at the whole big picture and being able to pull that all together to make us better humans, make us better individuals, make us better adjusters. And then we're making a couple $100,000 a year and we're like, wow, this is pretty cool.
You're right.
Or we start a school and we run that for 12 years.
Or an IA firm.
Or an IA firm or whatever all of those things, right?
Yeah.
We've got one of our guys that wants to start an IA firm, and I keep saying, good on you, but you got to get the contract first.
Yep.
He has a great plan about how his adjusters will operate because he's operating that way. He has a process and he came through the school, right? So he knows how that works. But until now, who's the salesman? Who's the guy that's going to go out and sell that?
Exactly. You got to get that contract.
Right. And he's a $200,000 a year guy. I'm like, dude, what if you want to go start an IA firm if you're already making a couple $100,000 a year, buy more land, pay for your house, make sure your kids are going to college. Then you can figure out an IA firm, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's pretty amazing. Ammon, thank you so much for this. This is so freaking awesome, dude.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Have me on again. I loved it. Good luck to everybody that's out there. I know it's hard as a new adjuster, but your time will come. Just put in the time, for everybody that's listening, put in the time and seek out mentors like Guy or whoever else out there. We want to help out, so.
Yep, exactly. My mentorship's going to start costing though.
Hey, right? You should. It's valuable.
I tell all of you guys this all the time. You gave me $22,000. You can call me anytime you want. The guy that didn't, he's going to pay for it. So,
it should. Yeah. There's value. There's so much value in it. So thank you.
Yeah, cool, brother. We will talk soon. I'm going to actually just hang on the line here after I get done doing the recording. I want to talk to you some more.
Oh, yeah. Sounds good.
Okay, cool. Have a great one, everybody. Thank you so much. Got it. I'm starting to say this shit, and I don't even know what I'm saying. But if you like it, press the like button. Do whatever you're supposed to do, because the more this gets out there, the more people we can help.
Check out more adjuster stories with Guy Grand right here.